understanding the role of a woman, like who really you start. Do you know that even in the anarchy days, that you have the king, 70% to 80% of decisions of the king in the chamber was influenced by the queen in the room. To some extent that some of them you have the queen by the side of the king.
This season of the Unamplified podcast is sponsored by the GIZ African Union Aware Project. A project aims to strengthen women's representation and participation in political processes.
Romantic relationships are probably one of the most talked about subjects. In Africa, we spend a lot planning for weddings. We spend a lot organizing weddings. So we can say that men love women in Africa. But when it comes to politics, it seems like it's a different ballgame altogether. My name is Cynthia Mbamalu. Welcome to the Unamplified Podcast Africa. With me today, I have...
Hi everyone, my name is Queen CY and welcome to the Unamplified Podcast.
Yes, today we'll be having conversations around women-men interactions in politics, especially men as allies in promoting women's political representation. And I have two amazing guests, two individuals who have vast experience in politics in Nigeria and Ghana as guests with us today. Queen CY, can you introduce our guests?
With us here we have Honorable Musa Dachong Bagos. Welcome to the Unamplified Podcast.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
And also we have Dr. Peter Otokuno, right? Hope I know more than your name, Dr. Peter.
You did small, but it's acceptable.
Okay, Dr. Peter is...
I'm sure if I try your own too, I'll medal is small.
No problem. He's the Director of Presidential Initiative of Agriculture and Agribusiness in the Office of the President in Ghana. Welcome, Dr. Peter.
Thank you, my dear.
Yes, so we've been talking about, I know when I started and I said romantic relationship, I'm sure Honorable was like, this was not why she invited me here. Why is she starting with romantic relationships? Well, I always like to draw parallels because, politics is a reflection of our society. The leaders we have are a reflection of who we are. And so if consistently we talk about politics, we talk about political representation, we talk about governance, but when we look within government itself, we're not seeing a reflection of the society. Then it means it's not the true, it means we're not being true, even in our politics. And why I want to start with romantic relationship is because in Africa, we spend a lot of time having almost every weekend there's a wedding somewhere. Men love to get married to women. Even some want to have more than one wife. So I want to believe that.
Well, and women want to be married as well. So.
Okay, I want to believe that there is some sense of alliance in that space. When it comes to politics, it's a bit different. And I'll begin with you, Honorable Dachong, before I bring in Dr. Peter. You've been active in politics for a long period of time, both at the state, at the local and at the national level. You've won elections twice into the National Assembly. And in your experience in politics, what would you say has been the challenge to women's political representation?
First of all, involvement of women in politics at the local level, I can say that women are like almost 70% of my voters' strength.
Oh, really?
Yeah, involvement everywhere in general. When you go to the polling units, you see more of women and youths at the polling units. And the involvement and participation is quite two different things. And let me even put it down to acceptability. And why you have the difference between the involvement of women in politics from the polling units down to be elected in politics. Here from the African perspective, the issue of ethnicity, the issue of tradition, the issue of trying to look at what woman really stands for. And it has to take a lot of international, national, and even local discussion for men to really open doors for women. Last week was just 30 years of the Beijing Declaration.
Yes.
And if you look at the Beijing Declaration, it was a worldwide cry, and meaning that it's not just about the African perspective, but it's the generality of the thinking of man towards the woman. And if the West have over the years sensitized people, sensitized men, be able to get women involved in the West, and now in the third world, so-called third world country, that we need more participation of women in politics. So for me, why it's like that is the natural instincts of man, how he looks at a woman. And again, coming down to the African perspective, how Africans and through the traditional perspective, the ethnic way of thinking of who a woman is, like you said in your opening, men want to marry even wives. You know that in some traditions, why one will just wake up, oh, I have hectares of land, so I need more wives to be able to give birth to more children just because of my farmland. So if you have people with that kind of thinking and you're now telling them that, oh, this one of your wives or one of your daughters should go into politics, like, how and why? And you have seen in families where you will have maybe 3 girls and 1 boy, and the father will say, well, I can only educate the male child, and the girl child is for her to go and marry or to work in the farm. So that those kind of orientation that the African man has, it's what has really reduced the participation of women in politics entirely. So sensitization going forward, but for me, basically the ethnic background, the traditional background, the religious background. I remember in those days that even in the church, as a Christian, that in the church you will see that this side of the aisle is for men and this side of the aisle is for women.
Oh,
that yes,
that must have been
absolutely, 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, really?
But with sensitization and understanding that, look, women today can even get into the pulpit and preach. Even today, there are churches that don't allow women to preach. Some Orthodox churches don't allow women to preach. So it's a holistic thinking of how men in general have been able to view a woman to a certain level. So it's a very big traditional thing that a lot of sensitization and awareness need to come down to our own perspective, to look at the woman equality with men. Well, that's another discussion, because there are still educated men that will not believe on the woman equality, that how can you equate me with a woman? So a lot of discussions around that. That
is interesting. So even the idea that a man and a woman are equal is still, I mean, that's the foundation.
Absolutely.
That's where the problem starts from.
It's still contestable.
If you can't even believe that there is equality there.
Traditionally, there in some ethnic groups or some religious belief of some people that they can't bow to a woman. So if traditionally he believes that he can't bow to a woman, and you are now voting a woman to a position, to an exalted position that you need to bow, and for him, how do you expect him to? So he will do whatsoever he will do, not for the woman to get to that position, for him to go and bow. So a lot of issues around that.
Okay. This is an interesting point, and I'll come back to you on that. I would throw a question, because I know Quincy has a question, and we want to make the best of our time with Dr. Peter. My first to you is, do you agree with Honorable Bagos on the point he has made? And then Quincy, your question.
Okay, my question is for Dr. Peter. You've led and participated in major political campaigns. Yeah. Does NDC allow women to have strong voices in decision-making process in party campaigns and political parties? Yeah.
First of all, let me thank you for this opportunity to join the conversation and to indicate that the very existence of man is because of a woman, even though the man, according to the Bible, was created first. And so women are very special people in God's creation. And so even though in the Bible, you hardly hear a woman mentioned and instructed, they are actually those who get the work done. And if you want the work done and done efficiently, give it to a woman. And we strongly believe that from the perspectives of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. And that is why, among all other things we have done over the years, this year we have been able to produce the first female vice president of our country to the ticket of the National Democratic Congress. And so this is something that is very, very dear to us. And we believe that the role of women in politics cannot be overemphasized. And the reasons are replete. Because if you look at the advent before modern day democracy, where monarchies ruled, you would see that political organization, which mainly is driven by young people, through revolutions and all that, become mostly successful because of women, because the women are those who are used as instruments of information transfer or information distribution, in those operations at the time. And so even at the time, in political organization, in successful political revolutions, when monarchies ruled, women played a very critical role before modern day democracy. And so when modern day democracy came in, it became very crucial that if we are going to practice politics of numbers, then there would be a need to convince a large number of people to follow you. And you realize that women had the key to convince anybody, even including the king. And so you would see that most political parties at the time started having women's wing so that they can organize the women on their own, so that they can use the women as instruments of mobilization and bringing people together. Because if you convince a woman in a home, you have convinced the household, and you would be able to win the entire household because they produce the breast that the entire family sucks on. And so whatever they say and whatever their inclinations are is where the entire family, gets inclined to. And so the role of women in politics and democracy over the years cannot be overemphasized. And that is why, as a political party or as a modern day political organization, you cannot be successful without focusing on women and bringing in women and hearing their voice and hearing their concerns, responding to their plight and making them lead and become part of the change solution. And so it's very important to us in the NDC and in Ghana, the role of women. And you would see that we have encouraged several women at several fronts to take very serious, significant government positions and party positions. Beyond the fact that there's a women's wing in the party, and almost all political parties now have women's wing, there is also a need for the women to be allowed to go beyond the wing. So if you have a woman chairman, a woman general secretary, a woman organizer, then you are getting to the point where you are not only restricting the women to deal with only women, but women to lead the entire mobilization efforts of the countries. And if you are giving them roles in government too, then that becomes a feather in the cap. As we speak, Ghana, we have passed the Affirmative Action Bill or Affirmative Action Act, which prescribes some 30% women participation in governance at all levels. And since we want political power, we've been working feverishly to appoint as much as 30% of women in our government. The challenge, though, is that women themselves, because most of them, because of the cultural and social environment and the arrangements, they are boxed into some kind of, if you want, for a want of a better word, some kind of a corner or a box, which prevents them from coming out of their shells. And so even when you are looking for women to put in critical positions, it becomes a very huge responsibility, because again, society has not really allowed the total liberation of women such that they can take full responsibility. And for those of us who have been in governance for a while and have dealt with a lot of women, you would see that women are very efficient and strict, and they are disciplinarians. And when they make a decision, they stick to their decisions. They don't compromise. Women are very difficult. If you want to compromise them, you will not succeed. And so they become very critical elements in effective governance. And I think that the more women we get participating in politics, the better for all of us. I think we must get to a point in time when we the men will stay at home and the women will go to work and make the money and come and take care. Because we have built a culture in Africa that says that the woman must be taken care of by the man, and so you even get a woman on a date and you have to pay everything. It's not the same elsewhere. And so as the women are pleading for equity to sit at the table, they should start paying the bills. They should start inviting us to dinner and paying the bills. You understand? And that is where equity comes in. And I believe that women can do that. You know, the women even have more money than us. Even for those of us that are working and taking care of our wives turn out to be more rich than us because they save a lot of money and, you know, they make a lot of investment out of our investments. And so we must get to the point where, you know, the woman is encouraged, you know, to take initiative. You know, in our part of the world, when a woman is even in love with a man, he can't propose to the man. Why? Why is it so? Why should the woman find it difficult proposing to the man? You are in love with the man, and somebody who is taking the man, and the man's mind is somewhere, and you are sitting down and crying. You understand? You must encourage women to come out of their shells and be able to do what men can do. And I believe some of the things they can do better. And there are some that obviously are restricted to only men. But at least if they venture out of their shells, I believe that they would be able to contribute more to society and development.
Yeah, thank you. I want to hold on you still because I know you have very limited time with us before I get back to the studio. So when we were talking about what we celebrated last year, I was actually in Ghana for the elections, and I found it interesting that the incumbent the president now, at the time he was a candidate, had a woman as a running mate. And I just reflected and I said, in Nigeria, can a presidential candidate have a woman as a running mate and be confident of a win? But I was just really inspired to see that was not an issue for Ghanaians. For them, it was the fact that NDC was providing a candidate for the people. And if the running mate was a woman, it was a woman they believed also had the capacity to be the vice president. And today we're celebrating the first female vice president. We're hoping that one day we'll have the celebration in Nigeria, maybe a female president. So looking at that, looking at the Ghana history, I remember the story of Iya Asantewa, the story of the War of the Golden Stool, when the men were, pardon me to say, when the men did not have the liver to challenge the British Empire. She addressed them and basically said, if you don't have the guts to fight, I will lead the army against the British Empire. And other women got inspired, joined, and then the men also joined her. She fought the war against the British. Yes, she may not have won immediately because she went on exile, but that courage is that's the story we tell, of the story of how courageous women have fought and resisted oppression within our continent. So if you think about this history, this rich history from Ghana, as an active member of the NDC, but also an active player in the politics in Ghana, what do you think can be done better to challenge these societal norms that have restricted women's political inclusion? That's one. And secondly, what's the plan for your party? Your party is in government now. What's the plan to ensure that within this period, we achieve more than 30% affirmative action based on the law that you have, more than 30% affirmative action in Ghana, and that more women are actively engaging in the political process in Ghana?
First of all, I think that the challenge is that leaders must be bold. And it starts from the men, because Adam was created first. And so ostensibly, the status quo is that men are leading, and men are leaders. Men are leaders of the home, leaders of the church, leaders of government. But it will take bold leadership to offer the seat to women. It will take leaders who are bold and understand the relevance and the role women play in society to bring women on board. And that's what our President John Dramani Mahama did. I mean, against all odds, when President Mahama nominated Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, I mean, it was to the surprise of many. But we knew the man that we were dealing with. This is a man that has been very gender sensitive in all his political career. And he was very confident about the role women can play in his government. Even in the previous time when he was president, I mean, women played very critical role in his government. And most of the major decision-making ministries were given to women. And so that was a very bold decision from President Mahama. And it will require bold decision from African leaders and leaders at all levels to allow women to take responsibility. But not just any woman. We believe that there are competent women. There are women who are even more knowledgeable than us. When we were in school, there are classmates who were women who were very intelligent, and sometimes they were always first in class. Unfortunately, all the classes that I sat in, no woman was first, but at least they were second because I was there. I mean, but we sit in classrooms and the women are good, and these are brilliant people who can, do the work that we do as men. And so it will take bold leadership for the world to allow leaders lead. It's just it begs the question, really, why the foremost democracy in the world, like America, have not succeeded in bringing women to lead. But we are showing the way because we've done the vice president in Africa. You may never know, tomorrow we may produce the first female president in Ghana, and that would be a feather in the cap. That would be a very significant step. But be that as it may, as a government, there's an enormous effort that we are putting into bringing realization to the Affirmative Action Act. And government at all levels are working to bring women into government. So we have what we call the district level or the local government, appointments that are made by government. In Ghana, they are not elected, they are appointed. So government, through the processes of selection, have shortlisted a number of people. And you would see that even with that, we were struggling to get the 30% from the women, because the women themselves, society have boxed them into shells, and they don't want to come out of their shells. They don't want to shatter the ceiling. They don't want to create any, problems. Again, there are cultural barriers, because in some segments of society, women are not allowed to take leadership roles. In fact, in the home, women are not even allowed to speak. And when there is a meeting of the family, women are put in the corner. And so all these cultural barriers are there that gradually education and sensitization must eliminate so that we allow women to participate. And so these barriers makes it very difficult to meet the targets. And so you want the woman and you can't find. All that you find is a man, but the work must be done. So you put the man there. And so we must continue the advocacy to encourage young women to build careers and to build independence and to build knowledge, build leadership skills, and be able to take the next frontiers of our leadership space in Africa. And if we are able to do that effectively, I am very, very optimistic that we would be able to achieve beyond 30%. But for now, it is exceedingly very difficult to achieve the 30%. Even if you want to offer some special concession for them, is difficult, because in our parliamentary elections, for example, in Ghana, in our party, any woman who contests for any position in the NDC pays 50% less than what the men would pay in every position. So if you want to be a member of parliament, to be able to file your nominations, even the nomination fee you pay is 50% less of what the man pay. We have done all these initiatives to encourage women to participate in the politics of the day, but still you have the challenge where a lot of women shy away from participating in elections and in leadership. And so we need to do a lot of education. And this important program of yours is one key one that we believe young women who are watching would be encouraged and will learn a thing or two that will get them to pick up leadership roles and to pick roles that brings change to society.
Thank you so much. I know you may have to drop anytime from now, but thank you for these insights. And I'll bring you back to the studio. Honorable, you've heard the story from Ghana.
Yeah,
I always say that we have this banter, Ghana and Nigeria. But when it comes to political representation for women, at least now Ghana is taking the lead. They have left us behind.
Cynthia, so
yes.
let me make the point that we are still leading the Jollof war. And
No.
We are leading gender mainstreaming, and we are leading the Jollof war. And so Nigeria, you have a lot to catch up.
No, that's all.
Nigeria know the top last, but this one you top last.
No, on jollof rice, we are still leading, Dr. Peter. The jollof war, we will keep winning it. But we will learn from you on women inclusion. Thank you.
I like the point he made, particularly on where he said cultural and religious barriers limit women representation. So I have a question for Honorable Bagos. How do men respond to cultural arguments that limit women in representing in government?
Cultural argument has always been traditional to men, and especially in the African perspective. And first of all, let me appreciate Doctor for the vast contribution he has made, and be rest assured that what you have started through the women in politics to have as vice president, basically because the women in Ghana have not yet taken much time in the kitchen to do the jollof rice, but now we'll see how we'll reduce them so that they will partake in politics.
Wow.
And basically, one thing with the African man, tradition is tradition. You can't change that, and that's why you can't change. If to an African man, once it's tradition, he always brings out the argument that traditionally this is, and that's why even the ladies today, if you are getting married, say, "Oh, my traditional wedding." First of all, you have accepted the traditional norms that look, this is traditional, and looking at that traditional perspective into politics, it's where to differentiate how can you be able to remove the psyche of a core African man that has taken tradition and religion. I've always emphasized that, because what has been able to take us to where we are, either positive or negative in Nigeria politically, is because of those two things, tradition and religion. And when we even talk about women in politics, look at clearly where you get more of the votes in Nigeria, be it let me use the presidential system, the presidential votes. Most of the states that you get more of the votes, those are the areas that you have less women participation in politics. Most of these states have never produced a woman as a deputy governor. And those are states that uphold their religious and traditional values very high. And some of these states further holding on to their religious values are even saying that Western education is not acceptable. But they did not say that politics is not acceptable. Mm-hmm. So if you are now, if you now have this kind of people with that kind of thinking, that even Western education does not necessarily mean that they cannot participate in politics. So their religious belief and traditional belief about woman still stands. So that's number one challenge. And even if you go back to the ancient Greek, where democracy and politics started, a woman is not even invited close to the chamber of the senators. Only the wealthy can negotiate with the senators outside. So the background of women participation in politics with tradition and ethnicity or religion is very, very key. So sensitization.
What can you, as a male ally, for instance?
Sensitization, awareness, more lobbying, more coming out upright to really push for women participation. I'm not usually in support of because she is a woman, let's give her 50%. No. I'm looking forward to a woman that will show capacity. If you don't show capacity and you're just talking of, because she's a woman, let her form be given free. Because she's a woman, let the money be reduced to. You are already saying that the woman is already weak politically. So why can't we have a Cynthia running for president of Nigeria on our own? Bringing out what Nigerians can be able to trust you because you are Cynthia and because you are Nigerian, because you know how to be able to bring out Nigeria as a whole from the problems where you'll be able. So let people not look at you, she is the weaker vessel, she cannot do it. Why can't we have the Margaret Thatcher? Mm-hmm. So why can't we have women coming out and look, we can really do this?
We have them already, at least in Nigeria. Not just in Nigeria.
We have them. We have them. Mm-hmm. We have them already, but still relying on the men to pave the way for them. We have them already. So, but what that woman stands for, like Doctor said earlier about, you can trust a woman can give you this, woman can do this, woman can, like me, and I'm an advocate that, look, when you empower your woman, you will be at peace. So why can't we trust women with such responsibilities? Why can't we be able to look at what are those strengths in women that will be able to push forward? And so those are areas that our discussion should be able to rally round, that looking at the strength in a woman, not putting a woman in the front burner as a weaker vessel. When you continue to do that you put in a woman as a weaker vessel, everybody will always look at you as a weaker vessel. But because naturally, if I shake hands with you, put up the griefs now, you say, don't you know that I'm a woman?
It depends. Do you know the weight I carry?
Yeah, so I'm not natural. So don't you know that I'm a woman? This. No, you shouldn't use emotional intelligence to get what you want.
No,
but use
I have to come in.
But use the practical. In the National Assembly, I know from the core north, I know of women, one or two of them, that have been in the National Assembly for the past 12 years.
Now the Northeast.
They're about.
Not Northwest.
Yes, they have been in the National Assembly. And these women, when they get to their constituencies and they speak, they stand. It stands, whether in public or even in the inner caucus. So unless we be able to push and to give that level playing ground. And again, from 1999, there are political parties that men were even women leaders. The records are there. Men that, because then women say, no, we can't do this. We can't do this. But it's changing now. So, with what has made the woman to realize her strength, take that. And I don't want to go further to say that even the women usually don't even support their own woman.
That one is a normal human. Some men don't support other men.
Yeah, well, because generally we are in the center stage, 80 to 90%. So that we fight among, you see, a man not supporting a man, but supporting another man. But when you have only a woman, the woman will not support only the woman, but she'll go and support any of the men.
Yeah, and I think so, because, you know, we always have this argument around women support women or women don't support women. And perhaps, because you've raised so many points around tradition, culture, even the history of democracy itself. Arguably, the history, if you think about the right to vote, every country had, the right to vote was first granted to male. In some places, it was white men who had money. When people advocated, it now moved to men, whether white or black, who had property.
Even within the white, it was those that were citizens, not even those that were immigrants.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They started with white before they now moved. Okay, some countries, it wasn't okay, now we need to have voting rights for all citizens, whether man, black or white or whatever color. But then when it came to women, it took longer.
Absolutely.
In Nigeria, women in the South had the right to vote before women in the North. The women in the North were not granted the right to vote until 1979, in the 1979 Constitution. But to do that, you had women like Hajia Gambo Sawaba, who fought for the rights of women to vote. And in doing that, fighting in the Core North, she's one of the most jailed activists. She was jailed, records had it about 16 times or more, beaten and violated for so many things, for just fighting for the right to vote. So we understand that there's this tradition that felt that politics was masculine. But we've seen that we had men, because why I had to mention Hajia Gambo Sawaba was because she was part of the NEPO, that was the opposition party in the North, NEPU. And that was the major opposition in the North at the time. But in the party, why she joined the party was because they were also advocating for inclusion. Yeah. And so we've seen over time, we've had men who supported the fight for inclusion of women, because as society evolves, you realize that women are humans, and if human rights is a right to everyone, if you're human, you have that right. So the basis of human rights is that it's inherent in you as a human. And if women are human, then women should enjoy equal rights like men and women. But I think from what you're saying, it's in the conversation, perhaps we are not having a lot of male voices speaking to their fellow men. Why? Because men listen to men and they will listen to a woman. And also our religion has also been interpreted through the views of some traditions. And it depends on which tradition. When we also hear Adam was created first,
I always tell people, when you buy iPhone 10 and iPhone 13 Pro Max comes out, would you want to get iPhone 13 Pro Max? What is the latest iPhone now?
16 Pro Max. Would you want? It's simple. God created man and he realized, oops, I need an upgrade. And he made women as an upgrade. And you can argue this as long as you're letting me argue this, but this is my perspective. This is my, because
the creation of a woman, the creation of a woman, the creation of a woman from religious perspective is not about an upgrade.
That's what you think.
It says that God saw that the man was lonely.
He knew that,
and he needed a companion. He did not say that. No, he didn't say that. He did not say that the man. No, he did not say that the man was deficient. No, he did not say that the man was deficient
but
and he needed an upgrade.
He created a woman that he now have.
You know?
Read the end of Genesis. It was after he created Genesis.
So don't even talk about upgrade.
And he said all he created.
It wasn't about
male and female
man was
good.
deficient.
Before he said everything was good was when he made women. It was not like, yes, now it is complete.
Well,
it is good. But see why we need more women as pastors.
Women,
if I preach the Bible for you, you will understand.
Then it was the first instance is that it was a companion, not an upgrade. So there is no way, because if you want to say that it's an upgrade, how can you? So now me like this, I'm sitting down and you're telling me that I need an upgrade. So you now bring my wife. Okay, my wife is the upgrade version of me.
The Bible now says, no, for this reason,
she is my companion.
A man shall
not leave it.
No, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and the two shall become one. Because God knew that as you are alone as a man,
he did not say that the man shall leave his operating system
until you cling to a woman. Until you cling to a woman, your life has not started.
Yeah,
that's what even our creator said that. It's not me that said it.
Well, you see, basically, one thing I want you people to really take again is that understanding the role of a woman, like who really you are. Do you know that even in the anarchy days, that you have the king, 70% to 80% of decisions of the king in the chamber was influenced by the queen in the room. To some extent that some of them you have the queen by the side of the king, that you have to whisper, or just by looking at the queen, you know that this is yes or no. So, and that's why I said earlier, look, the woman really needs to understand what she stands for. It's not just lobbying the man for money or for jewelry or for anything. No. Influence the man, and you now discover that some people now use women for negative decision against whosoever it's. How was the head of John the Baptist was removed, even the Bible was as a result of the woman. And if you look at all the downfall of men biblically and even till now, it was women that were used. And that's why traditionally and religiously some people say, no, woman, no, if you want to fall on this and don't bring woman closely. But the message again, in pushing forward, the message should be able to look at the content of the message of sensitization for women involvement to be different. Like when the he for she came out, most of us in the National Assembly were holding the plaque, he for she, and so I say, come on, this he for she, you should think very well. It's like it's LGBTQ. Or what they call it, transgender. He for she, you now you can. You are now canvassing he for she, which means you can tomorrow say that you are a she. So that's like so even that message was problematic for some politicians. That no, because when it came, he for she, but some people later went to criticize the message itself.
So language.
Exactly. Say when you now say he for she, which means it's transgender.
I'd say I'm even surprised to hear that this argument.
Yeah, and because those are discussions that men usually discuss in terms of promoting the woman. In terms of even the message in taking the message, because the he for she is a universal acceptability, acceptable language for look. This is for women, but
it is men as allies.
Exactly. So religiously down, I always emphasize that. Traditionally and religiously down for some people, he for she. How? And again, there's an issue of transgender. Are you now telling me that he or she? So I can say I'm she tomorrow. So,
I think you will maybe ask your question before I jump.
My question is out of the he for she argument.
Yeah.
So my question is, we've talked about how men should be allies and also challenges women are facing and whatnot.
Yeah.
Forgetting that women cannot just appear and just represent in politics. There are some processes, there are some things that they need to go through. Like they have to join political parties, and the political parties in turn have to help them, bring them out for them to actually rule. Now, my question to both of you is that how can political parties help women to emerge in government.
Every political party now has on its manifesto has a room for the woman to participate, be it a woman, be it as in position of its national working committee. That there's usually a role for the woman leader. There are specific roles for women, and I know that even in my own political party, the PDP, has been able to make sure that out of 17, you must have not less than 5. That is the standard. Apart from the statutory woman leader, out of those 17, either ex officio, either a woman, even the chairman, the ward chairman. There are a lot of wards that have had women as ward chairman, you know, but because some people usually look at it as a role because say chairman and you just say, chairman must be a woman. No, we have gone down to emphasize that, look, even a woman can be part of it. And down even in the churches, like in my church, out of 7 elders, it's mandatory that 3 must be women, must be a woman. So that kind of sensitization is there. The political parties have, on paper, theoretically, have been able to make every policy for a woman to participate. But where you usually have the problem is for the woman and which of the women to be identified to participate itself. That's very key. And going round, like I said earlier, that the woman needs to wake up to her own responsibility. And for some men, they always feel that once a woman wakes up to her own responsibility, she will start dragging her shoulders. Jokingly, I was with my wife. She just came back from New York, from the
CSW,
women, from the women convention, or I don't know what people call it. And my son was saying that it's like, mommy, it's like you have traveled to many countries more than daddy now. You are the woman, but you know, so that kind of even thinking that, look, women shouldn't explore. Women shouldn't be part of this. Women shouldn't be. This is where the role of a woman should be, maybe just if leaders can say that a woman belongs to the other room. You know that goes down in policy implementation. Because if even I as a father would tell my son that this is the role of a woman, he grows with it. You can't change anything. It's just like
what
when
message?
Yeah.
How can men, like for you, for instance, what message would you have for every man listening, for every young man listening to you now? What message will you have to your son who is listening?
That a woman is your partner, not an upgrade. Like you say, that the woman is your partner. A woman is your ally. The only difference between the man and the woman is the reproductive system in terms of, and even through the reproductive system, it has a role. It has a role. The role of the reproductive system for the woman is to be able to give birth, and the role for the man again is to be able to fertilize. So these are different roles of a woman, but not that just because the role of a woman is giving birth and she has that to taking charge of the home and things like that. All those norms were being defined by men at one point or the other. There is nowhere, either in the Bible or in the road, that says that a woman is the person that sweeps the room. There's no place that is a law that the woman is the person that cooks. There's no, but again, it shouldn't be to an advantage or to a disadvantage. We should all be able to balance those roles.
Yes, because cooking is a survival skill.
If there are men today that their hobby is cooking. By the way, if you look at statistics, you have more men celebrated chefs in the world than women. Yeah, you have more men celebrated chefs in the world than women. So when you balance those roles and understand that the woman is your partner, the woman is someone that you can share ideas, a woman can really do this and that. So the only aspect of the weaker vessel that women are being looked upon as is that God has given man that role that, look, he will be able to till the land. And so because he will be able to till the land, he needs strength. So if you're looking at that ancient days again, westernization and civilization has made agriculture or tilling the land to be as easy as anything model. Anybody
because we
can
actually have more
anything.
female farmers.
Exactly. So it's for us to be able to balance the message. But as long as we want to take superiority on the message, either as I'm bigger than you on this, or either no, I'm your upgrade, or this, you're this, you will never get the balance. You will never get the balance.
You people started with is you
but
that God
and you know, traditionally again, some of those norms, like Doctor was saying earlier, that why is it wrong for a woman to propose to a man? It's even what is happening. It's the physical tradition that we borrowed from the West. I can tell you that traditionally, there are even some countries in, I don't know, I've not confirmed, like that of Indians, that it's the woman that pays the bride price, the dowry. It's women that identify a man in a house that look, there's this. So there's that family discussion on that. And even in some places, I won't say our place, but even a woman can identify a man, and the woman will tell the man that, look, you can only come and pick me up at either at the market square or where we come out in the evening to celebrate. You know, that's how our people usually get married. They'll just come and pick your daughter, and they'll come and tell the parents that, look, our son has found someone that he needs. So those are discussions that a man and a woman have in time immemorial been taking place. But for me, men as an ally, the message for women participation should come out strong. The woman has a special recognition naturally from men. Your woman can abuse you in the room, even threaten to kill you in the room. But once you step outside in the market square, where you have more of men, and you slap the woman there in public, I can tell you, all the men will come down on you. It's natural. It's a natural instinct that women already have that physical and public support because they are being seen that they need to be protected.
It's in current day in Nigeria.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't slap a woman outside and people will let you go. Even now, you can't slap a woman outside and people will let you go. Why are you beating her? What have she done to you? Blah, blah, blah. Everybody will pound on you. So women need to understand that they already have that natural support from men. But the message to the man to get them have their required space is what is very important. Because that natural support that woman has from a man is about his own ego. This is my woman.
But now we're saying we don't want the ego. We're saying
no. It's an ego.
We're saying we want the men like you. Voices are already believing this to talk to the men. So it's not even women now doing the message that you're talking with the men and saying
the woman have to be seen worthy. It's not so that's what I'm saying. So the message to the man, it's very important because of that ego. I've seen where men brag about their, like, go to Gudu market and see the typical Igbo men that have not, I won't say educated, but that have not gone to the four corner of the classroom. They will say, "Nah, do you know my wife? My wife is a lawyer." They brag about it. My wife is a judge. Go to the most educated women in Nigeria, the Anambra women.
That's my state.
Oh, well, so that's why.
And that's a good place to...
So the most educated, because...
We need to round
I have the research, like the most educated women in Nigeria are the Anambra women, because the men are tilling the ground economically in business, and they make sure that their women are well supported in school, and when the girl child is the most enrolled in schools in Anambra State today and some part of the eastern states, because they believe that this is what their women. And again, to some of them, you know that when you bring a politician. No, wait. I want to give you this point, that again, to some of them, why they educate their women, you'll find out that most of them ensure that their women read law, because once their women are lawyers, they protect the family business.
This one, you said, is from your own research. No. I think it's been an interesting conversation, from both learning from the Ghana experience and also listening to you from your experience. For me, one message from this conversation is we need to balance the roles everywhere, meaning that even in government we need to balance representation, and the message is key. You talked about the importance of the message, but also that we need to see women as equal partners, because we can't move forward if women are not part of the
you're
system.
Using the word equal partners, not upgrades.
Equal partners.
Because even that upgrade, the women will come against you.
Let's not go deep into this, because we have a lot of arguments. After all, you know, when our Lord and Savior resurrected, the first people he showed himself to were the women.
Yeah, because they are the gatekeepers.
Because they are the gatekeeper, which is why, if women has been recognized at different levels in our history, be it analogy to Christian faith or even Islam.
And you know, as gatekeepers in Proverbs 31, where it talks about the virtuous woman, it says that the woman will make her husband to be proud at the city gate. You know, it's very deep, but still look at that as a woman. What do you need to do to make your husband so proud at the city gate? And in this
place, we say husband meets the nation. That we need women as in those places where decisions are taken, because that is what would make our continent and our country prosperous, when we get more women on board. I'll leave it to my colleague, to my co-host, to shout out to our audience, because Honorable wants to keep us here for long.
Thank you for watching the Unamplified podcast, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Unamplified podcast. Follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, X, and Facebook at the Unamplified Podcast.
Yes, and this is a call to action to every young man listening, to every man listening. Remember that women are equal partners in development. Today, identify a woman in your community, in your society, in your family that you want to support to aspire to run for office. You can support in different ways. Identify someone, a woman that you'd support today. At the end, if we're all part of the process, then we can have a continent that is beautiful. This episode has been brought with support from GIZ, African Union, our web project dedicated to strengthening women political representation and participation in Africa. And to our crew behind the scenes, we want to celebrate our director, Hamilton Odemenam, our sound engineer, DJ Drexx, our social media strategist and co-host, Ayomide. We have our cinematographers for today, Shola and Emmanuel. And we have also the crews behind the scenes, those working, Stephen Moma, Samuel Folorunshaw, Andrea, and David Mpume, who also provides support behind the scenes. We want to specially thank Dr. Peter Otokuno, who works in the Office of the President, is on the Presidential Initiative on Agriculture and Agribusiness. We also want to specially thank Honorable Dachong Bagos Musa. From all of us on Unamplified Podcast, we say thank you. Keep a date with us every Wednesday. When you're on, you're amplified. Cheers to Africa.
Sure.